You could say it's a little bit far-fetched to make a video on these two teams at this time because they're both playing at 4 p.m. today, but I wanted to make this video to distract myself. Because when it comes to the Canucks, everybody is talking about Jim Rutherford, the president of hockey operations, who recently had an interview where he went over his perspectives on the Canucks and where they can go and what the team development is like and how they haven't done as much as they thought they would be able to do and how they could probably build a pretty good team. I don't think it would be unfair to say those comments are disappointing considering the state of the team and what it appears the Canucks have internally as what they want the team to be able to accomplish. It doesn't really seem like they're aiming all too high, but that's neither here nor there. That's not this video. Let's talk about the Rutherford comments some other time. What I wanted to do was go over to Vancouver Hockey Insider. This is the website for Rob Simpson, NHL insider who was recently let go by Vancouver Hockey now. Hockey Insider is his own platform where he talks about Canucks stuff now. Take a look at this article from the other day talking about the Vancouver Canucks and the Minnesota Wild, and how Minnesota could be a realistic trade spot for a Brock Boeser trade. Now, before we go over and read the article, link in the description by the way if you want to go ahead and read it yourself, let's go over the profile holistically of Brock Boeser because this season the guy's 25 years old, he's making $6.6 million AAV, and this goes on until 2025. It's the first year of a 3-year contract extension, which will see him making this amount of money. And when it comes to the way Brock has played this year, the guy's on pace for 53 points in 74 games played. He's got 22 points in 31 so far, 7 goals, 15 assists. He is on pace for 17 goals on the season too. Now, Brock Boeser is kind of an interesting guy because when it comes to the way his production has been shaping up, I mean, you can see it right there in the numbers. He's got 6 points in his last 10, 2 points in his last 5. And with all the hype around Boeser, calling himself out, talking about how he's going to be a 30-goal scorer, how people in the organization believed that this would be the year for him to go back to form and produce offense in the ways that he had back when he was a rookie, the Canucks fan base as a whole sort of got jebaited when you acknowledge where he actually did go with his play. Now, that's no slight on Brock. We know that he's had so much misfortune to deal with over the past few years from multiple injuries and off-ice trauma as well. It's just unfortunate that Brock Boeser was never the same guy after Cal Clutterbuck reverse hit Boeser into the open Canucks bench door that was left open by Jake Virtanen, by the way, a few years ago. And so when it comes to this guy, even though Brock is producing at a rate that's not terrible, like of course being on pace for 50 points in a 74-game campaign is not bad, it's just the cap hit and the way that he plays. He can't skate anymore. He's definitely not as nimble and quick as he was in his rookie season. His defensive play, sure, it's kind of improved, but Brock Boeser is one of the guys that I think a lot of Canucks fans would say has been primarily disappointing comparative to the expectations that were placed upon him. However, what Rob Simpson is going out there and talking about in this article is how the Minnesota Wild are one of the teams that have talked to Boeser's agent about Boeser, and they could be a potential landing spot for the winger too. Now, this isn't the first time at all that we're seeing the idea of the Wild being brought up as a trade destination for Brock. We've made several videos over the past few years talking about the Wild and Jason Zucker, rejected trades, Matt Dumba. It's been a lot over the past few years when it comes to Brock and the Wild trying to get Brock from Vancouver's grubby fingers. But this time around, it's coming with a little bit of a different flavor. Let's read what Simpson writes about here. As for the potential pressure of playing in his boyhood city, a source very close to the deliberation suggested it wouldn't be a problem when speaking hypothetically about a number of NHL markets being explored. Or, as one NHL GM told Vancouver Hockey Insider, if he can play in a toxic market like Vancouver, he shouldn't have a problem playing there at home. And okay, I mean, toxic Canucks fan base? Yeah, I don't think I would necessarily disagree. That seems to be a common, widespread opinion of the situation Boeser plays in right now, so why not the attention of playing in his home state? The article then goes over the history. Brock Boeser left Minnesota to do this, to do that, etc. It's interesting to go over the overall timeline of things, I guess you could say, but it also talks about how Boeser could be a lethal addition to work with left winger Matt Boldy, who's having an excellent second season in the NHL. There's a little bit more over here talking about the Wild and their search for players to add and how Brock Boeser could be that guy, etc., etc. It's all stuff that we've talked about before, so link in the description if you want to go ahead and read this part of the article. Along with losing the cap hit, though, the Canucks could try to get a hold of a right-shot puck-moving defense prospect like Brock Faber, who's playing at the University of Minnesota. 2021 first-rounder Carson Lambos, who plays for the Winnipeg Ice in the Western Hockey League, is a lefty puck mover, and 22-year-old Calen Addison is already playing with the big club as a right-handed D. Now this is interesting, because the article then talks about how veteran righty D-man Matt Dumba's name has come up in the past, but he has a 10-team no-trade list and will be walking to UFA status in the summer. That would work for Vancouver, as they wouldn't be giving up future expenditures, but the Wild would be giving up a veteran defenseman depth player for a playoff run, and there's a lot of pros and cons there. Now, for me personally, I don't think Matt Dumba fits the timeline of what exactly it is the Canucks are looking for in players. Even with all the recent trades, you see Studnicka coming in here, Ethan Bear, Lane Peterson, they're all kind of in that similar range, and as we had talked about a few days ago, when you acknowledge the Canucks have been looking at guys like Alexis Lafreniere, guys like Kirby Dach, a player like Matt Dumba, who is 28, doesn't really fit the timeline of what the Canucks would be looking for. He's more in the lines of like the JT Millers and the Bo Horvats of the world, late to mid-20s-ish kind of territory there. And so, when I think about what the Canucks could probably ask for more so in a trade like this, among the names that Simpson mentions could be targets, the one that stands out to me is Calen Addison. Now, the argument that Simpson brings up towards the end is, hey, the Wild have the option to trade away a guy like Dumba, but that would be giving up some significant depth in some sort of a playoff run. Well, Calen Addison is more than just significant depth. The guy is 22 years old, right-handed defenseman drafted by Pittsburgh back in 2018, and this season the guy has 21 points in 38 games played, 3 goals on the year as well. He's got 44 points as a projection in 81 games played, and that's really gosh darn good. Like, for me personally, I'm not surprised to see Addison doing this well, because ever since watching him in the Lethbridge Hurricane system in 2018, the guy was a really good puck-moving, offensively capable defenseman. He was a point-per-game guy when he was drafted in the WHL, and he took that success to higher levels of play in the AHL for the Iowa Wild soon after getting acquired by Minnesota. Now he's a legit defenseman, and you see the way he's able to move around in the offensive zone, set guys up, score the odd goal for himself once in a while. He's a very good player, and also very young. This is the type of guy that sort of fits that mold of what the Vancouver Canucks would be looking for in terms of assets that are maybe on the market. I don't want to say that Calen Addison is a guy that the Wild are looking to trade, it's just his name is brought up here in the article, and I like him a lot, both as a player and as a potential Vancouver Canucks trade chip. So if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, you can let me know in the comments if this is an idea that would intrigue you in the ways that it's intrigued me. For me personally, and for a lot of other Canucks fans, I think a lot of fans would take this type of a move if it's Brock for Calen Addison, let's say 1-for-1, for example, or maybe even Brock, dare I say, add a draft pick, like a third or something? I'm not too sure if that's going to go over well with the Canucks fan base that ever so desperately wants a rebuild. I'm part of that too, don't worry, but like, I don't know, Brock's value, I just don't really see it in the same light as maybe some GMs out there would in the same way, but I'm not really too sure. If you're a Minnesota Wild fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of Brock Boeser for Calen Addison 1-for-1? If you think there's a discrepancy there, then you can let me know in the comments if like Brock in a third or something gets it done instead. Calen Addison has been a very good prospect, and I'm very happy to see him developing in the way that he has to the point where he's now what he is at the NHL level, but are you also in that boat? Do you feel kind of ticked off that I'm even suggesting this idea in the first place? Do you still really desperately want Brock Boeser as a potential external scoring option to add to your middle six? And I say middle six and not top six because, I mean, look, Brock has been okay the past few years, but this season, for some reason, he feels a little bit off. I'm not too sure if it's because of the expectations, where he said he'd be a 30-goal scorer, where his teammates said he'd be a 30-goal scorer, and right now he's playing not like a 30-goal scorer, or if there's anything else at play. But you can let me know in the comments your thoughts about your perspective and what you think about this idea. Calen Addison for Brock Boeser. Talk in the comments your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.